Hi, I'm Christopher Mockford, and this is a presentation on a Midsummer Night Scene. So, in this video, I'm going to tell you, this presentation, I'll tell you how I learned what these stars' names are, and how you can take a picture, a photograph of this sky. And, of course, the obvious time-wasting question, because I think everybody knows the answer, although some of you might pretend you don't know, but right, this is the Starry Night. Everybody recognizes this? Tell me if you've never seen this. I don't know if anybody can do that. And I think most, if not all of you, can tell me who painted it. And that's an assumption. I guess a lot of people don't know. But this is Vincent van Gogh, right? He lived for 37 years. He died the year after he painted this. So where and when did he paint it? This was in June of 1889. Southern France, about 43.5 degrees north, just a little bit south of the 45th parallel. So just south of halfway between the equator and the North Pole. And here's the question that some people are not sure, nobody's asking. How many stars are in the Starry Night? It is a starry night. How many stars are in it? Can you tell me? Right. So, first, what's not a star? Right? Here's the moon, of course. Right? There's also one planet. And if you counted that as a star, I'm sorry. This is Venus, right? So that gives you 10 stars. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And so there you go, 10 stars. So I knew there are 10 stars, but which stars might they be? Do you have an answer? Do you know their names? I know the moon, I know Venus. What are the names of the other stars? I'll tell you how I learned the names of these stars. And so be patient. So it was June 14th, 2025. I came into this room, this classroom. My one-to-one student hadn't finished a writing assignment. She had her book open. Right? To something she had skipped over, and I didn't realize, this is my absent-mindedness at work here. But I wasn't worried that she hadn't finished it. I just noticed there's a picture of a starry night on that assignment. And, I just told you, this is from letters, records of Vincent's stay in southern France at the mental asylum, psychiatric ward, whatever you want to call it. So he painted it in June, and here I am in June, and I recall learning this in the previous year. And I went back, as soon as I saw her book open to the Starry Night, I went to the web page, and I looked at the little picture, or simulation of what this night might have looked like on the night Vincent van Gogh wrote a letter saying he had painted it. And here's the moon and Venus, but there's all these other stars here. There's Cassiopeia, the queen, Pegasus, the flying horse, Algol is one of the stars of Perseus, which, by the way, Persia is named after Perseus. So there's some other stars here. The Bull, Pleiades, the star cluster. I really thought maybe the Pleiades is in it. So this Farmer's Almanac webpage had this picture, and based on what they assumed the sky was like. And right away, you can see that the moon is not even close to a crescent. So maybe Vincent van Gogh painted a crescent with some freedom, artistic freedom, liberties, right? This is a really wide view, wide angle of the sky. And so I went out I actually, this is the thing here. Yeah, there's a lot of stars I tried to figure out. I didn't really look at this too much. I just looked at my phone using Stellarium. And the free version is pretty good, so anyway, I thought maybe the Pleiades is right here. Maybe that's what he painted, because their chart showed, oh, it's just a little bit north, or to the left of Venus at sunrise, before sunrise. So maybe that's it. I just started looking at the painting like, that's maybe the Pleiades. Though it seems kind of small. I mean, Venus is the third brightest sky object, right? And behind the moon and the sun. But it's so small compared to the Pleiades star cluster. So I wasn't sure. So I also saw on other websites, people say Aries is in the Starry Night. That's been figured out decades ago. Okay, so that's a clue. But the real clue that I had been aware of, and I give credit to this author, David Harry Grinspoon, because I read his book. I love the title, Venus Revealed. Well, anyway, this is about a pattern in nature. Venus's orbital pattern, the way it goes around the sun, is in a kind of harmonic resonance with Earth. It's not perfect, but I learned this from the book, that the way that Venus travels around the sky repeats itself. Not perfectly, but close. And I used that knowledge to go see the transit of Venus the second time in the 21st century, in 2012. Because it had happened the first time in 2004. So it's an 8-year gap where it's passing right where it was, 8 years later. So, yeah, I realized that if you divide 8 years from 2025 back to 1889, that leaves you with a multiple of 8. In fact, it's 17 multiples. 17 times Venus has repeated the pattern. So these are the years that Venus has gone through Aries since, in the morning sky of June. It goes through Aries at other times of the year, and through the evening, and sometimes early June, late May, you can see that on a 5th year. But it's a little bit too early, and the stars have already pretty much disappeared from the night sky by that time. But the first repeat was in 1897, and so by the time you get to 2025, sorry, that was last year, this is all a year ago. And you can see, if you're figuring out the pattern here, what I'm going to say later. But the problem is the moon doesn't line up with Venus every time. The way it's like 8 years plus a day or so. And so Venus and the moon do not meet when Venus is in Aries during like the middle of the 20th century, at least in late June. Early June, in a different year, it's possible. Because anyway, the path of Venus going through is quick. Not as fast as the moon, of course, but it's fast. So I looked at the forecast for June 19th. It's cloudy. I didn't know where the stars were. I knew Aries is in it, but I'm not sure how it was depicted. And you're going to see that it seems obvious now, looking back. But I went out at 2 a.m. the next morning, and I was trying to get something like this. And you'll see. Well, first of all, would you like to take a picture of the sky? This is what my video is for. It's not to congratulate myself. It's to encourage some of you out there, inspire you to go find the night I'll suggest, and get what I would call the Starry Night alignment, or maybe the Van Gogh alignment. well, whatever you want to call it. So would you like to take a picture of the starry night? Here's, I did! It wasn't clear. The weather wasn't great. And I was in the city with lots of light pollution, so having any clouds overhead makes it even worse, because there's lots of light pollution reflecting on the bottom of the clouds. My son's school is right here. I just walked outside of my house. I didn't even take a trip. And it's because the weather forecast is so bad everywhere, or at least anywhere within moderate length of travel, that I just walked outside. But there are stars in the picture. And look, Cassiopeia is here. At least I'm matching what the Farmer's Almanac simulation page, which I think it's not accessible. There's a PDF, you have to log in or something. So anyway, that's why I took it with this camera. This is a Samsung. It has hot pixels that are not stars, and this wide-angle lens is probably equivalent to an 18mm. That's not what you want if you're going to take a frame of the starry night. So if I had to do it again, I would have taken maybe this camera. Just a simple old Canon with a 50mm. It's not even a full frame. So this might be better on a full frame. I'll put this on a full frame. And that should be okay. That should frame the starry night. So for me, I couldn't really see what I was even taking. I couldn't even see the stars. I saw them in the picture, in the camera, on the screen. You have to go to the right place with the right weather conditions. And as I walked back to my home after walking up the little hillside above my son's school, it got a little clearer. And I can't remember if this is 2:30, 2:30, sometime between there. But I want to share it with you what I did get. And there are lots of stars in here. Again, Cassiopeia is right here. Andromeda is right here. The smudge of the Andromeda galaxy is just barely right there. Triangulum galaxy is also there, but I don't think I got it. This is not even a long exposure. Again, this is just a simple tripod. Not even a star tracking tripod. I didn't even take mine. But like I said, this is something that happens every 8 years, and the moon is going to be off a day or two from the previous alignment, and it's not very aligned. But I started matching the stars here and figuring out the names. I'm cropping this, so Cassiopeia is kind of gone now. I didn't capture all the stars. This is what I think it was. It wasn't June 19th. It kind of matches June 22nd. Again, Van Gogh may have used artistic liberties to put the moon in his frame and painted it. Just based on... Some people also say he painted it around June 20th. And I think it's the early morning of June 22nd. That's why, again, I'm calling this the Midsummer Night's Scene. This is only within 24 or 48 hours of the summer solstice. So it's the shortest night of the year, which means you have to wake up the earliest to capture the stars before the sun rises. And if you're in Scandinavia or northern Asia, somewhere really far north, then you won't even have any nighttime. So I think this is the frame. Aries and Pisces. The lower part is Cetus, the sea monster, or the whale. Cetaceans are named after this Latinized version of the name. The Pleiades is just out of the frame. So here's what I'll tell you, right? This is from France. Again, this is just another zoom in. And there you go. And I'll show you my picture now. I framed it close to what it was here. You can see the moon is much higher. The moon is closer to the ecliptic in 2025. And 1889, it was a few degrees below it. And so that doesn't match exactly. But it's as close as you can get. And I'll tell you more. So I cropped there. There's the head of the ram. And I'm trying to match it. You see this? Does this look like it's the head of the ram? This is the top of the left top of Starry Night. This is the top of the cypress tree. I'll show you something interesting here. So that's the brightest star of all 10 stars, Hamal. This is the Arabic word for the head of the ram. Most star names in the International Astronomy, International Union, IUN, the naming of the stars in Western culture is adopted mostly a lot of Arabic names. So this second one is Sheraton, and that's in the Sarki. That was only officially named as the official name. Before that it was Gamma Arietis, just in 2016. So the official naming is still going on. So maybe this, I don't know if this video is going to influence anything, but maybe it will, because Lambda Arietis doesn't have a nice ringing name like these three brighter ones. Lambda. Hey, it's kind of funny because lamb, ram, you, it's like a sheep, right? Oh, it's the Greek letter. Lambda Arietis. Look, there's 10 Arietis. Another name that maybe needs to be changed. I mean, not changed, given another name. Actually, I found out during this research that the stars have, especially the brighter ones, have dozens and dozens, or if not hundreds of names across cultures around the world. But the dimmer ones don't have anything interesting, unless they align with some planet. The ones along the ecliptic, right here they are, look, there they are. These ones. You might notice a problem here. So I filled them in to look like they're bigger disks. And here's the problem right here. This dimmer star, this is Kappa. Kappa Arietis actually makes a better alignment than the brightest star, Hamal. In which case, Hamal is hiding behind the cypress tree. I don't know. Van Gogh is kind of interesting. It's like a little puzzle, because even this star right here, this 14 Arietis, is brighter than 10 Arietis. And I think the ancient people saw, and this is what a lot of text says, that this head of the ram is not looking forward, it's kind of looking back. And the ram's horn is this curve here of stars. I'll tell you more about this. This is interesting. But, so, yeah, Hamal could be Kappa Arietis. These two brighter stars are not depicted. These dimmer ones are. I have to give him some leeway. Van Gogh was not painting this when he was looking at it. He wasn't allowed paints in his room where he looked out his bedroom window to the east. He was allowed to paint in the daytime outside of his room. They didn't want the patients to hurt themselves with oil, so he wasn't painting. And he couldn't really do nighttime paintings easily back then anyway, because people didn't really have electricity. So doing it under the oil lamps or outside in the right conditions is basically a really difficult thing for artists to do. So nighttime scenes were painted in the day. And he wasn't a stellar cartographer making maps of the stars, so I gotta give him some leeway. Omicron Piscium. I'm not used to pronouncing these constellation names in their Latinized versions, but Pi Arietis is not directly above Venus. I think that is it. It's so dim, and I didn't circle it right. It's just right up there. But that's 7. Right there, 5, 6, 7 of the 10. And I could say there's one more here. But the moon's really bright. And the moon it doesn't look like a crescent, it's overexposed here. But here's what I'm getting at. And I wasn't in a hurry to make this video now because that's 7 years from the time I'm recording. But this is not why I'm recording it now. It's because, besides I need to move on with my life and just get this out of my way, this alignment is probably the best you might see in the future. It'll be the best alignment in maybe 144 years. Venus is just a little bit ahead. It doesn't come back to its same spot 8 years later. It's just a little off, but it's close. The moon, though, was below the ecliptic, and in 2033 it'll be much higher. And you have to look from where you are in the world to see where you might want to get this. When I call it a Van Gogh alignment or a Starry Night alignment, I mean to say that the planet is in Aries and the moon is in Pisces. And if you're you can get the moon in Pisces maybe for 2 nights, 2 or 3 nights, maybe 3. I don't think it's even 3. It's usually 2 nights. And if you wait even a day later, then the moon has, because like an hour of time, the moon moves its full diameter towards the east. And so, from one side of the world, this is actually not from France. This is, I simulated from southern France, 1889. That's what Van Gogh saw, right? This is from Dalian, China. I'm in northeast China here. And by the time the moon and these constellations rise before sunrise in France, the moon will have already moved past these stars in Pisces. So you should look a day earlier if you're in anywhere else in the world, I think. So just figure that out for yourself. Right? This actually looks better, I feel. The moon was so low in his sky. Maybe he did paint it a couple nights early and just threw the moon there. Because this alignment in 2033 feels like it matches better than what he painted in 1889. At least from northeast China, if you're in Hokkaido, Japan, or Korea, somewhere in East Asia, you're going to see a pretty good alignment in 2033. The moon will be where Omicron, Pisceum, and this is Pi Pisceum. Pi Pisceum, Pi Aries. That's Pi Aries. I'll show you the names later here. Okay, so like I said, this actually feels like it matches his alignment better. Unless he was painting these 2 stars. Omicron was the top one and Alresha is the bottom one. And actually I say that with a rising tone because I feel like, no, it doesn't work. Alresha is so low that it's lower than this star. This should be Pi Arietis. Well, that's lower than this star. And there's nothing that's... This is the interesting thing about this flowing wisp in the middle. Because you can see, if you put these 3 stars near Venus, you got these 2 and this one. And I'm talking about 2033. I can go back to 1889 if I want. Yeah. It seems like these 2, or maybe these 2, are what he was painting. He wasn't painting the brightest star of Pisces. I don't think so. But you can see a different pattern. Maybe you can explain to me. This is from about 38 degrees. That's why these stars are pointed differently. If the farther north you are in your latitude, the northern hemisphere, right, the more these stars should be pointed down. And then the farther south you go, the more they're rotated up. And so if you're in Australia, if you're in the southern hemisphere, Pisces is above, like above Aries. So take that, flat earthers. So, yeah, like I said, this is probably the best alignment in 144 years that you're going to get. That's a confident statement that I'm ready to wreck. But, yeah, here are, at least in the 2033 picture you can get, these are the names of the objects in the sky. So here's the moon, here's Venus, here's Hamal, here's Sheraton, here's Masarti, the three brightest stars. And then, I can't remember exactly which one's the fourth brightest, but I think it's Botine. And then, it might be Lambda Arietis. And then, maybe Omicron Pisceum, Pi Pisceum, Zeta Arietis. Okay, so, I don't know if I said that in the order of brightness, but I tried from the beginning and then I didn't write that down, so I did write it down, but I haven't memorized it enough. And that's also because maybe this is not Hamal, maybe this is Kappa Arietis. I wrote this all almost a year ago, and since then I've kind of changed my opinion a little bit. Maybe that's not the brightest star, maybe it's hiding behind there. In which case, Epsilon Arietis is hiding somewhere here too, I guess. Or maybe one of the other stars that could have been depicted, but it seems like it's good enough. 10 stars is, maybe that's why he doesn't like this painting. And I got some other things to say about it. But let's say this right now. Other than, I think maybe he just had some kind of, I don't want to call it a mental breakdown, because I feel like maybe these wisps of stars, these wisps could represent the fainter stars. If his eyes were good, and it was back in the day before light pollution was a big problem to view the stars. Because look at this. That's kind of between Venus and the moon, these wisps here. They make little hook shapes. I don't know. Some of these, the dimmer ones that are depicted here are like magnitude 7. Others are 6, maybe this is a 6 or 5. They're just at the edge of human acuity, as they say today. Like, you have to be in a really dark sky with really clear conditions and you could see these. And maybe you can photograph these. Do some long exposure stacking. Yeah, this is 1889. I'm not sure what he might have been doing these 2 stars. But I feel confident that these 5 stars, aside from Hamal and Kappa Arietis, that's the head of the ram. Then these other ones, that's Botine and Zeta Arietis and Pi Arietis. And that doesn't make sense to me. It feels like this is the same distance to Hamal or Kappa. And if I put it here, that's not the same distance. That's like more than twice as far away. And I look like other artists, whether they're doing paintings or sculptures, sometimes things are stretched out longer, others are squished. Their dimensions are not properly symmetrical or whatever. So, not symmetrical, how do I say it? They're not proportional, right? But maybe you see this painting differently now. Oh, I was supposed to go like this. Does this painting look different to you now? This is a reproduction. Got a little oil on canvas here. I have not been to see the real one in New York. But I guess from knowing the distance, like the angle here is probably, you have to stand maybe 2 fists wide away from the Starry Night to see the angle of the sky that Van Gogh was painting. It wasn't a wide angle view. Okay. Now, I'll say this at the end here. This isn't the end, but you can find some other times to find an alignment where a planet is in Aries and the moon is passing through Pisces. This is why I'm telling you now, sharing this now, because if it's not Venus, you don't have to wait for 7 years. That's the good news. Venus is in the evening sky this year, in 2026. Right? The evening sky, not the morning sky. You can't see it the way Van Gogh saw it in 1889, this year. But I've been proven wrong about being able to take a photo this year. I'm the only one to notice my own failure here. It's not a failure. It's a surprise. Some people just couldn't wait until 2033. Some esteemed heroes have found a different alignment date for 2026. Do you know what I'm talking about? Right? It happened on April 6th. Some of you know what I'm talking about now, right? Were they going for the Starry Night alignment? Or was it all just a coincidence? Right? What's this? I'm like this. Hey! I've seen this one! I've seen this one! It's a classic! I see these pictures from Artemis too, differently now. See? Alright, the astronauts went around the moon, and just above the spaceship, the spacecraft, that's Venus. And it is in the evening sky. This is 2 weeks or so after the spring equinox. And at springtime, from the Earth and Moon's vantage point, right, the sun is passing through Pisces. And so, eclipsing the sun with the moon around that time, the moon is in Pisces. And Venus is in Aries. And these are the stars. That's Hamal, Kappa Arietis, Lambda Arietis, Sheraton, Masarthine, Omicron, Pisces right there. They got it! They got it! They got the Starry Night. And I think it was a coincidence. Nobody's mentioned this. So they took less than an hour to go to have an eclipse of the sun. I guess they're still studying. Is this the dust in the solar system between the sun and the moon and the earth? Or is it part of the sun's corona? And it's probably a combination of both. So those are the wisps of this painting, I guess. Maybe the wisps of the other stars are in there, but these pictures, they were figuring it out, like what exposure settings to do, because some of these stars are kind of blurred. They have little trails. Because when they went behind the moon, the camera, I don't know if it was set on auto or they manually set it, but they figured it out after a few bad frames. And yeah, these are the 3 brightest stars, the head of the ram. And then these are planets. This is Mercury. It looks like it's the farthest away. There's 3 planets here that seem to be closer to the sun. That's Mars, and that's Saturn. And here's why I'm sharing the video now. It really is. It's because Mars is moving in real close. There, you can see it. This is the Starry Night in a different viewpoint. Right? There's the planets. Pisces is going out here. Okay, there they are. That's the head of the ram. I didn't circle Omicron. I think that's Alresha here. The brightest star, Pisces. Yeah, that's... I'm going to move on to something else here, because I've been talking about the ram and the fish, but not all cultures see these objects the same. Ancient Chinese had 4 regions of the sky that represented like autumn, well, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And 28 mansions means, I think there's maybe 7 in each mansion or each region. that represent the movement of the moon in a single day. And that's why it's hard to get in alignment, because the moon just blasts right through each of these little mansions or areas of the sky. And I'm a little silly here, but eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by its toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Sorry, snake and turtle are supposed to be one, but I practiced here. Aries is the bond in ancient Chinese astronomy. So that's kind of the place where the bond means you've caught the tiger and you're hanging it up, you trapped it. And now it's sad, right? But they've got Aries right here. There's Hamal, Sheraton, Masarti. And so they call it, what is that? Lo Shu Yi, Lo Shu R, Lo Shu San. I guess you have to put how you wrap a bond around the tiger's tail. Those are the three names of those stars, the three brightest stars of the starry night. And the tiger's toe, I caught the tiger by its toe by including stars that are not on here, but they point to the tiger's toe. That's Omicron, Pisceum, or Pisceum, and Pi Pisceum, or maybe it's Auresha. I'm not really sure. It could be New Pisceum or C Pisceum. My pronunciation's bad here. So these are I think you can, if you're a Chinese expert in astronomy, maybe you can tell me if these ones are off. But I'll say it in Chinese since I'm living in China now. So this is Yeyang. There's Jinxing. This is really cool to lead on. The gold planet, the gold star, right, is Jinxing. Because I'll say it in a slide or two later here. But let's see. That's Yogang O. This is Zogang O. Zogang O. Yogang San, Yogang Si. This is Lu Shu San. That's the bond right here. Lo Shu Yi, Lo Shu R, Lo Shu San. And these are added later. Lo Shu Zhang O, Lo Shu Zhang Qi. Then there's Tianyin R and Tianyin Si. So this is the bond that catches the tiger's tail and the end of the tiger's body. Actually, the tiger's tail's up here, so maybe I'm off. Tiger by its toe, right? That's what I said. Okay. Yeah, maybe these ones are off. Somebody can comment. So here's the good news, and I've got like 2 weeks from posting. If you're going to go out in the morning, June 11th, check the day, because if you're off a day, the moon will pass through Pisces too quickly. This is Saturn. Let's get into my next slide. All the way. Other things. Aries is in Aries. Mars is going to be right a little bit above where it is in the starry night, but that's June 11th, 2026. Right? That's cool. That's cool. You can get a kind of a replacement starry night here. Don't ask what the Greeks thought about Mars being in Aries. Okay, ask separately. I won't say it here. So if you missed this video by a few days and you're off, actually the thing is Mars moves a lot slower. So you might look at July and check. Mars will have moved a bit, but I think it'll still be in Aries in July, so you can get it again. But look at that, Saturn, June 7th, this is a little earlier, 2 weeks before the summer solstice. And the earlier in June you are, the less time you have to capture this picture before the sun rises. You know, stars rise about 4 minutes earlier every night. So if you're too early, it's too early. Too early is too early. Too early in the year, you're missing out. So the later in the summer, the higher Aries will be. And that's why it's depicted as part of the fall constellation. Because these stars are in kind of they're higher up in the autumn sky. Right? That's actually Orion is the head of the tiger. I'm curious to see an outline of how they saw a tiger. I'm gonna have to figure that out later. This is the summer here. Is this Scorpius? What is that? Anyway. Oh, by the way, this is that's the Pleiades here. The tiger's back, just a little bit off. Okay, so then you got 2033, and maybe you can check out other alignments, but I think this is the best one. 2033, June 22nd, give or take. All right, right now. So this is 8 years later. After 2033, you got 2041. Mars and Venus will be in this part of the sky, and that's a cool alignment too. So when I say the best alignment in 144 years, I mean between 1889 and 2033. How much you did take the one last year? I think it's close enough. Still, it's a little bit higher, but yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. Try a time lapse, try a photo, try a dark sky. I forgot one thing I'll say after this. Wish for a clear night, wake up very early, or just stay up late. That might be better, so you don't miss it. It might be better to stay up late. Enjoy Midsummer Night's Singing. And I forgot this one part because I think I gotta go back. This ram, Aries, is also the golden fleece in the Argonautica. The Argonautica is the story of Jason and the Argonauts pursuing the golden fleece. And now I just see this painting as a representation of the golden fleece, because the golden fleece kind of represents power and wealth, right? And it's in New York, and the price of it is astronomical. So whatever the price tag of a golden fleece was back in ancient times, that's what happens when you try to buy a painting, is you get fleeced. Or if you don't sell it enough, and somebody that bought it after you sells it for multiple amounts higher than you sold it to them for, you'll feel like you got fleeced. But a golden fleece is what Van Gogh painted, literally and figuratively. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.